Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we are continuing on with our frequent asked question web part. Hope you're doing well today. Um, the last time we met, we had the stream going was Wednesday of last week, so it's been a little bit. We got some catching up to do. Um, I had some stuff going on, so I wasn't able to come and stream on Thursday, but I typically like to stream Monday through Thursday. Um, Yep. So Monday through Thursdays are streaming days, and today is Monday. So let's go ahead and get started. The last time we met, we were working on the FAQ web part. We had established that we could edit, we could remove, and we can add topics. Um, Now the add topic, I think we should move it to the top. Or perhaps we could have a button both on the top and the bottom that handle the same thing. So that users can add topics. We also have to keep in mind that we have to add the array of topics that are going to be covered by this web part. So let's do that. All right. So we have our layout, our topic. Let's go to our web part and see where we go from here. So we have to have a way to add our topics. And the way we do that is we need to have a way to keep track of the topics that this web part is going to handle, and also keep track of all the topics that are added as we add them. So I think that we can go ahead and start by adding a state. Let's go ahead and start by adding a state. Just so we can get started. We might change it obviously as we go, but right now we need to be able to set up a state based on the topic. And so we're gonna set this up to be the FAQ topic, or it could also be, oops, I'm sorry. Or it could also be undefined. And obviously to start off, we're gonna start off as undefined unless otherwise indicated. And here we're gonna say, oh, it's gonna be an array of FAQ topics because we're adding them to our selected. So let's call it that, selected topics array. Set selected topics array. This is where we're gonna have our topics that are selected. Obviously, we have to have a callback or a function that adds that selected topic to the selected topics array. So as selected topic, we receive the topic, which is a type of FAQ topic. And that doesn't really return anything. We're just gonna add a topic to the topic array. Let's see what this is. So I'm not entirely sure what Copilot is doing here. Could work. But I guess we can test it. I've had scenarios in the past where arrays and simply updating the array in this manner. It doesn't always work, but we'll see. Maybe it will, but I haven't had much success. Typically, what I'll do is I'll reset the array into a temporary array, and then I'll append the new one to that array, and then I'll update the state. At least in my experience, that works. I think there's an issue where the state won't update correctly, but we'll give it a shot and see what it does. So on stackable bar, we have an option. So now let's have an option in here that has this function as its usage. And basically we're gonna make it so that this is optional, obviously. And we're gonna make it so that when you click on the container, or the bar rather, that is going to handle the selected topic. So on the bar itself, we're gonna add on click, and we're going to add selected topic, and the topic is going to be added to that. Why is this giving me an issue? Oh, so if it's basically saying the topic, trying to think if let's have a stackable bar for, we're gonna have two types of stackable bars. We could technically make this optional, so that way we can reuse the stackable bar, but oftentimes what I find is that if we do that, it's a little bit harder for developers to follow you after and know exactly what it is they need to fix. Like you want to have usually a separation of duties. So that's why I'm saying, like, it might be, well, no, now that I'm doing this live, so I'm really starting to think about it. I think that we should keep it this way, but it shouldn't be optional. We need to toggle it. What that means is we're going to use it for both, to add it and remove it. Similar to a light switch, right? So if you have a light switch, if it's off, you're turning it on. If it's on, you're turning it off. So instead of add selected topic, let's call it toggle selected topic. And we're not gonna make this optional anymore, because what we're going to do now is we're going to basically make that do the switch or remove it. So this one we're gonna have to change to check if let's let me see, where's my cursor at? There we go. We have to check if the topic exists in the selected topics array. So selected topics array, if we find it, we have reduce, we should do, I'm just gonna iterate through all of them, but there's a way that you could, is find available? Find if the ID in the is, let's call this const is in array, select the topics array, and if it has the ID in there, if it's not an array, we're going to add it. Otherwise, we're going to remove it. Yeah, so basically what's happening here is the updated array, it's going to check if the item is in the array. If it is, we're going to take the original array of topics and we're going to add the topic to it and then set it to the updated array. Which you'll recall, that's one of the things that I mentioned. We have to do this because I've tried it before where you just update it without actually creating the array, and it doesn't often work. So this is the better way to do it. You want to create an updated array and then add that updated array as your new state. All right. And instead of add selected topic, we're going to call it toggle selected topic. And here, toggle selected topic. All right. So now that will handle our adding and removal of our topics. So now inside of our topics, we're going to also do selected topic array, and we're going to basically do a div with the not a div. We're not going to do that. I don't know why I did that. I'm going to do stack item. Let me see, did it bring in stack item? Yes, it did. I don't need that one. So we're going to do stack item, and we're going to do a stackable bar. Stackable bar. And yes, we're going to set it up to oh, this is where I messed up. Let's get rid of that. And what we're going to do is select the topics array map. Yep. And then in here, we'll do our stack item. And it's toggle selected topic. And we need to have, we need to have a key because we're iterating. So same as you have here, key, we're gonna add a key here. The topic ID is gonna be our key. We're gonna get rid of this function. Now we should have two of them. And let's save stackable bar so we don't get that error. So in our topics, so general is now showing at the top, SharePoint framework is showing at the top. We obviously need to have a way to separate these. So instead of our topic selector, we need to have some kind of a selected topics div. So we have our selected topics array. We also have to make sure that the topics do not include the ones that are already in our selected topics array. I think for that, we're going to have we're going to have a way, probably a local state, because if you recall, the topics is actually coming from it's coming from the remote state. And so because our state that is remotely generated from SharePoint is technically what is in SharePoint, us moving it up and down and removing it, we're not necessarily removing it from the remote state. So ideally, we want to have a local state that we can shift those up and down with. And actually, I'm really thinking that we should probably move these states to the store, because if we have it in the store, regardless of what component, because remember, we're switching components here. Regardless of whatever component we're on, we can use the store to keep them generalized across the entire web part. And that shouldn't be hard to do. That shouldn't be hard to do. So we will definitely do that. Um, all right. So um, let's see. The biggest thing that I was thinking about right now is we probably don't want to have we definitely don't want to have this up and down on the actual topics. So on stackable bar, we don't need an unedited and we need an edit and delete, but we don't need chevron up, chevron down if they have not been added as part of our array of items, right? So yeah, let's so we can do there. So in our topic selector, let's we already implemented our edit logic, so we can delete that. We already implemented our delete logic, delete that. So let's start by adding our, let's start by adding a stack here. And then let's move this into this stack. We're going to move this into the stack here. And then we'll add a new stack here. And we'll add that here. That should give us some separation. So we click on general. Nope, it's not giving us any separation. We're gonna add a stack item, and here we're gonna, yep, perfect. That's exactly what I'm going for. And here we're gonna do another stack item. And let's see what this will do for us as far as our view. All topics, and why is it doing that? Oh, because I haven't added any. We need to have a placeholder here that basically says that topic's already, that there's no topic selected. So instead of this and, we'll add this here. And this ends here. Yeah, so let's, okay, so we have, why is it not, oh, is it, okay, it's because this needs a brace and this needs a brace. No. Let's do this just so that we can, for our sanity. am I missing here? Oh, I had an extra parenthesis. Can we do something nicer here for the no topic selected? Because we want to have something that's a little bit more, a little bit nicer than this. Maybe like, we want to have something that shows that there's no topic selected, something that shows, you know, a little bit nicer than this. I'm trying to think if Fluent UI has anything that we can use as far as controls are concerned. There is notification, message, maybe a message bar. Like an info. We could do that. I just feel like that looks a little too it just looks too bland. We want something that looks nicer whenever we're talking about this. I think that it could be something like a um stackable bar that basically just says no topic selected. Also, we have to show that these are not active. And actually there's an easy way to do that. We can actually have, so the way we can do that is we can say, okay, if it's selected, we should be able to pass that array of selected items or selected topics into the stackable bar. If it's inside of the items, then we don't then we have the ability to see those up and down toggles, because that's what allows us to change the order of things. If the item is not in the selected items, then we don't see the order anymore, because they're not in the selected topics. Therefore, we cannot change the way or the order that those appear in. So let's do that part. Um, so so right now we have on edit, on delete, toggle selected topic, and topic. The next thing that we need to do is for the action for the chevron up, chevron down. We don't have that functionality enabled yet. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. Does text field we have to find something that looks nice for our information. Otherwise, we're gonna have to create just create something similar to it. Something similar to the stackable bar that has just a gray background that says no topic selected. I think that that's going to be the nicest look. Yeah, I think that's going to be the nicest look. So let's do that. So inside of we're going to create a new stackable bar, or I think, I don't know if we should use this, but I know that there's a placeholder that we can use from the controls. What can we call that? Let's just create a new let's minimize this. Let's go into our stackable bar. Here we go. Here we go. And let's create a new file. We're gonna call it stack placeholder. And it's gonna be a React component. And this is gonna be a functional component. All right. And so here we're gonna basically be building the stackable bar. So we can just return this. Difference is that it's just gonna have the bar, and in here it's just gonna say no topics selected. And we're not gonna use these action buttons. We're not even gonna have an icon group. And we're not gonna have a toggle either. Yeah. And then we're just gonna get Copilot to, similar to the stackable bar, create a style for the placeholder of placeholder to display that no topics have yet been selected in the topic selector. So we're going to create a module SCSS for the placeholder to display no topics have been selected yet. Let me see if it's creating it in the right place. Yes, it did. Good. All right, so now we do have to run build, because remember, we are running fastserve, and fastserve doesn't build every time. So whenever you add styles, because what styles will do is it'll create something that will translate into TypeScripts that then can be utilized as your style. So as you can see now, our error is gone. Okay. So now we should be able to go back to our FAQ Webpart topics. Oh yeah, we have to use a stackable here. So let's delete this, and we're gonna run stack placeholder. Okay, no topic selected. That looks nicer. I think we can work with that. And then when they add some, look at that. Perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Now, as mentioned, we have to make sure that we have all of our topics in the local state. So yeah, so let's do that. Let's go to our Webpart store. Maybe I'm overthinking this, but I'm thinking that I know that we want to move the selected topics into the Webpart store, but ultimately we're gonna, if you recall, we have this edit that we want to pass all of our topics into here when they're selected. Obviously, we're gonna do that upon the user saving the configuration. So they can save the configuration after they get past essentially the topics, because the Q&A is really writing to SharePoint that's stored there. And the preview is going to show basically what it's going to look like. Let's just code. So const all topics array, and this is going to be, yep, topics, exactly. We want, when we initially want it to show, is if selected, wait, no, I don't think we can do that. What I was gonna say is, let's move this down here. What I was gonna say is we should set it up to be the topics should include only the ones that are not in the um set topics state to not include selected topics in there. So we're going to look at the selected topics array. I'm gonna run a map through there. And we're gonna basically try to find it, and if it does, I'm just wondering, topics, I'm trying to understand what this is writing. Find it. No, selected topics initially should be um because we're gonna have the array of topics in the web part. So it could be undefined. Yeah, it could be undefined, but let me close the chat. All right, so you recall that we had our topic array inside of our settings. So when it loads, it's going to have the array of topics, but it's only going to have the array of topics in numerical format, because we don't want to store data that we don't really need. And the topics can always change, right? So if somebody goes in and changes it, it should reflect the changes on the web part. We don't want to statically store the entire topic in questions inside of the settings, inside of the right-hand pane. So in our web part, if we go to our webpart TS file here, remember we have this topics array. Yeah, we have this topics array, but we're going to change this. It's not going to be a topics array. It's going to be, I know that I remember it. Wait, I want to change this field down here to be property pane there's gotta be a field that has like a multi-line. Property pane. I guess it's the only one I see. So we have text field button, checkbox, description, drop down. How many characters can property pane text field hold in? I wonder if it's the same as 255. Oh, I guess it doesn't have a limit. Okay, good. The reason I was gonna look at that is because okay, that's better. So it looks like it doesn't have a limit unless we set up a limit for it. The reason I'm thinking is because I was thinking that the settings should be where we have an object that handles the view, right? Because if you recall, we have a layout, and then we want to handle the topics array. So we should have something that handles that for us. And so let's go back to our web part. And the topics array should by default have a value. Um, let's go to JSON builder. JSON builder. I think there's a JSON builder. And so we have a property called layout. Let me show a demo. Okay, perfect. Let's use this. So we have, okay, so we're gonna have layout. And this is going to be, the layout is going to be, let's just call it accordion, because these are gonna do that. So layout is going to be accordion. And then we're going to, instead of this accordion, what am I missing? Okay, instead of email or emails, we're gonna have topics. Okay, and that's just gonna be an empty array. Hmm. Um, yeah, let's do it this way. Yeah. Yeah, so this is what our JSON object is gonna be. And we're gonna add let test equal allow pasting. Let test equal, and then paste this. JSON, oops. Stringify test. And so this is gonna be our default value. So let's go back to our web part. if we look at our strings, uh, web part, basic description, web part title, topics label, label. What is the description? FAQ web part. Where is the FAQ web part? Right? Yeah, FAQ web part. I'm wondering if I had a new section and I had the FAQ web part there. What is the settings on this one? It's still FAQ web part for the title. I'm trying to see description, property pane description, but the value is what I'm considering here. Where is the default? I'm trying to think of what the default would be. Let's see. Where is the default value stored for property pane fields? SPFx. Manifest JSON. Okay, so if we look at manifest JSON, I believe that's under settings, under config. No, that's under no. Yep, this is where we need to add what was it called? Topics, right? Topics array. Oh, I don't have that turned on. Let's go back to our JSON builder. Copy this. And we have it fixed. I don't remember what it is to escape quotes. Oh, so it's just a backslash. Backslash, backslash, and this is just going to be an empty array. Okay, and a comma. Fixed array is not allowed. Oh, duh. I put it in the wrong spot. This should be down here. Like so. Okay. And so that way when we add a new, let's say I delete this. Let's delete this web part. We publish the page. And now edit the page, refresh it. We're gonna add the web part back. And if we go to settings, it might be cached. Let's clear the cache and see. All right. Let's go to our settings. I think I know what it is. If this doesn't change it, I know what it is. I know. Okay, so I know what it is. So the manifest JSON, if you recall, what we're doing is we have this deployed inside of our app catalog. And so because we're using the app catalog, we have to rebuild this web part and push it back up so that this can be reset. Here, I'll show you what I mean. So I'm going to republish this page. And then in our terminal, we're going to run a few commands here. So we're going to run gulp build. We're basically going to prepare to build this out and deploy it, but without the artifacts. The artifacts are going to be running from Visual Studio Code because we still want to be able to work on it and do the live reload and everything. So gulp bundle. Gulp package solution. And we're not putting the flag that says ship on there because we're not shipping it right now. So here, let's go to our app catalog. Our app catalog should be app catalog. Perfect. So apps for SharePoint. And we're going to look for our Webpart file. Reveal that in Fire Explorer. And then we're going to take this package. I'm going to drop it in here, replace it. And make the solution available, yes, and deploy that. So now if we go back to FAQ Webpart, I'm going to clear the cache. Make sure it deployed. Yep, it had it. So we should see it now. We go back to FAQ. We've cleared the cache. I'm going to edit the page. And now if we add our FAQ Webpart, we should see, there we go, our information here. All right. So now that we have our object, it's going to by default be set to accordion, and then our topics are going to be an empty array. And we're going to populate our topics here. All right. So now that we have that set up, set topics array, we're going to change this. So instead of set topics, we're going to do set configuration. We're going to change this to set configuration. And it appears in all these different spots. Yes. And instead of topics array, we're going to say configuration. FAQ Webpart. All right. Now I gotta find configuration because I saw an issue inside. Was it in here? Right here. Oh, that's correct. This right here, configuration. It's not a number array. Configuration is going to be an object. And so our object is going to look like this. So let's go to our app props. And in here in our app props, we're going to do a little thing called JSON to TS. And you see how it says layout is a string, topic is a string. It's not going to be a string. It's going to be an array of numbers. And this is going to be configuration object. And we're going to change this to a type. Yep. And we're going to export that. All right. So, where did I see that number thing right here? Configuration is not going to be a number. It's going to be a configuration object. All right. So our configuration object, as you can see when we hover it, it's going to be a string for layout and an array of numbers for topics. So we can save this. It should still load. Oh. So it looks like default layout, something's broken. Let's go to default layout. FAQ Webpart, I say FAQ Webpart TSX. So FAQ Webpart TSX configuration. No. So the configuration is going to have an array. And default layout is taking configuration object. It's going to be JSON.parse configuration, which is going to be this object. Why am I getting an error? String or undefined is not a byte. So this is going to be configuration or just an empty object. not a big fan of that. Configuration should really never be undefined, so we can go back and change that, because now that I think about it, we have a default value for it, so it's never going to be undefined. So let's go to the props, this, and configuration cannot be undefined. It's always going to have a value. Because remember, we set a default value for that, so we should not have a problem. We should not have that kind of problem when it comes to our web part, because it's always going to have a value. So topics is going to be whatever our configuration is. So our configuration, our values from the configuration are going to be coming in and being set to our topics. I guess my biggest issue is I'm not a big fan of what I feel like I need to do to make this work. Basically the way I think it's gonna have to work is when it loads. Let's try it. Let's go to the Webpart store. All right, so the Webpart store is going to have selected topics, ID array, and this can be an empty array, and yeah, let's do that. And then let's get rid of the double P there. Selected topics, selected topics array. That's type FAQ topic. That's correct. I'm gonna have two setters: set selected topics ID array, and then the topics array. Right, and then here, yeah, we're going to have so they're going to be empty when we start, and then we're just going to set them whenever we start our web part. So our web part starts where? Let's find out. So our web part starts here. And here's where we're going to use our web part store. See, hopefully this doesn't break. It's been my experience that it does, but let's find out together, shall we? So we're going to use our selected topics ID array, our setter for that. Set ID array. And right after that, our configuration is coming in as a string. Yeah. So when this loads, we have to set that to be that. So let's do a use effect. And our dependency is going to be configuration. Not that it's going to change. Um, set. Oh, wait. Um, const config object is going to be of type. What do we call it? Oh, geez. What did I call it? Configuration object. And that's going to be JSON parse configuration. And set selected topics array. Why am I getting an issue here? Why? Let's go look at app props. It's topics, not that. There we go. So obviously if it's empty, it's going to be an empty array. If it's not empty, so topic selector's obviously got an issue here. And this is going to be, we're going to use the Webpart store. And we have let's just say for the sake of argument, let's say a number array. I'm just spitballing here. Let's do this for now. I'm just curious if we're going to be able to even see that. Where am I getting an error? Undefined is not a valid JSON. Oh, I know why. Because we said that it was never going to be undefined. What do we have in our object? Can't even see? Why can't we see that? Undefined is not a valid JSON. I guess it initially is undefined. Jeez. Okay. So let's go back to our props. Not that props. This props. So configuration apparently can be undefined. All right, so now our FAQ Webpart is going to have an issue. Sure, why not? We can do it that way. So instead of default, it was accordion. And then topics array is going to be an empty array. Where's our other error? Let's make it the same object. This right here. Okay, yeah, that was the problem. Which we can set it to that, right? Because we had this set to be a default, or at least I thought that was working, but it looks like that's still not working. Why is that not working? What's working with that? I mean, it's not supposed to be doing that. Why is it doing that? Not view page source. Shouldn't be doing that. Why am I seeing that way? The layout is accordion, topics is an empty array. So in FAQ Webpart, let's go back to the beginning. So FAQ, web part. Initially it's loading, but we start over again. It's rendering the FAQ web part component. So this is the FAQ web part component. I'm wondering if this is the issue. I'm just curious. Why am I not able to see the properties? Okay, see, I usually have a problem like this. Let's try it this way. No dependency and the array still loads, but I'm not able to see my property pane. Why? Instead of setting here, let's just console it out. And then let's get rid of the web part store because I'm pretty sure this is what's causing the issue. I always have this problem with the web part stores. No? That is so weird. Let's inspect. What do we have in our console? Something's obviously erroring out. Yeah, I am at a loss here. It's gonna. That's what the issue is. So it's saying on line 29 of the FAQ web part, um, I think it's because, yeah, I'm still getting the same error right here. Because it's getting the configuration, and the configuration is this. Right? Oh, I see the error now. This has, where's the manifest? Yeah, there's an error in configuration. There is, you can see it right there. There's an extra. Problem is, I don't have access to it. And obviously that's gonna cause a problem. We gotta probably, in order to fix that, we gotta do a check to make sure it's a valid JSON. Because the problem is in here where it tries to the problem is we save it. Where was the problem? We go to console. It's in our FAQ web part, error boundary. Here. Let's change this to just be this by default. That should fix that, and then we can go in and fix it. Now we should be able to see our property pane. No, still not able to see it. Let's empty the cache, try to refresh it again. Same error. Oh, it's in our use effect now. Let's change the use effect to not use the configuration. And then we can fix our mistake. Here we go. There's nothing there. There's nothing there at all. Could it be this? There's nothing there, so we shouldn't be getting that problem. Just let's try it this way. Okay, so is that saved? Yes. Let's try it now. Configuration is set to what? And it doesn't even let me see the property pane. So it's obvious the issue is configuration. Let's go back. Maybe like this. Try that. Now let's bring back configuration. It's back. Nope, error still occurring. It doesn't let us know. Well, now it's I think it's a different spot. So let's go back to sources. Stop it where it tries to do the configuration part. Let's try to refresh it. It's an error on 41. Okay. Configuration is this. Let's ask. Configuration object is set to this. I'm getting an error. It says it is not a valid JSON. And let's share the error. Mm. Wait, how did I not have that? Oh, so it has to be like this? Okay. So we can try that. But that's not gonna fix it right now because we have to deploy it. Guarantee you. Yeah, we have to do our deployment again. So go build. Go bundle. What did it say? But process terminated, possible error, async code not continuing. Let's try it this way. Let's clean it first. Build it. And give me 1 second. Yeah. All right, so we built it. Or did it build? It looks like it did. Bundle it. No, it's erroring out. Oh, wait a minute. Because it was saying that we should do it this way. But apparently that's not gonna like it. Let's try it again. Okay, that worked. Let's redeploy it again. This is kind of good that we're seeing all this because it kind of gives you the ideas on what you're going to be seeing. Because remember, whenever you make any configuration changes like to the manifest JSON, you have to redeploy it because we're running it off of the app catalog, but we're keeping the artifacts in Visual Studio Code so we can live debug our issues. It's like saying we're throwing out a beta without everything, all the artifacts, everything that makes it work. We're not putting that into the server. We're just loading the shell, and then we're keeping all the interior workings of it available to us in Visual Studio Code so that way we can still make changes and be able to see them live as we're building. Now we should be able to see this. Okay. Oh man, error script. Very, very good errors to go off of. I guarantee you that error is coming because of the setter. This right here. Guarantee you. If I remove this, I'm pretty sure that this is going to work. Let me republish the page and try it again. So clear the cache, edit the page, add the web part. And it doesn't have very good errors to go off of, but I thought it was going to be an error with that issue, but it doesn't appear to be that. If I had to guess, it's probably because, what did I put in the manifest? Maybe it should just be an empty string. Yeah, if it's just an empty string by default, then we know, yeah, we know to do the default, which we already have anyway. Let's do it this way instead. I think this is causing us more headaches than it does help us. Clean it, build it. Bundle it, and then package it. And then we redeploy it. That should set that string to empty. And we can go from there. So we packaged it. Perfect. Let's go get our file, or it should still be here. There we go. We can go to our app catalog. Drop it, replace it. Deploy it. Give it a moment to deploy. Come in here and refresh it. Okay, let's go back to our code. Oh, hello. God, I cannot believe I just did all this. Oh, I'm gonna get a headache. I just completely dropped the ball. If you recall, what I did was something not very smart right now. Um, we built it and everything, but we didn't run it again, and so that was the issue. Oh, let's try this again. So go clean, go build. And then we're gonna bundle. And then we're gonna ship. Or package solution rather. All right, perfect. So now we're gonna run serve. That's why I was failing, because there's nothing running. Gosh, I can't believe I dropped the ball like that. It happens. So now we drag and drop this in here, replace it, and then we deploy it. This is the fun part of working in this. I know it seems frustrating, but to be honest, I love this kind of stuff. It's, I don't know, you can call me weird, but figuring stuff out, seeing the blunders I have actually makes me want to do this more. Um, it's like when you're playing a video game and you're just messing up a lot. That's kind of how it feels. Um, so yeah, we'll see. Look at that. Okay, good. And we have that. Are we still getting our errors? Nope, no errors. Okay. I think we're got somewhere to go here. Now let's go back to our web part and see if the web part store doesn't crash everything. I'm about to find out. Okay, so now just out of curiosity, let's see what our web part store has. It should be under should be under, not image base, under layout, nav cards, no. Fragment, default layout. Let's look at the default layout. Configuration. Layout is accordion. But our object is here. Um, I know one of these has to have. So the topics ID array is empty. The topics array is empty. But the question is, let's do this too, because we need to find, let's go back to the web part store. So inside of our web part store, we also need to have our layout. Layout selection. It's going to be a string. And we're going to have a setter for that too. Set layout selection. And it's under accordion is going to be the default. And then the setter for the layout is going to be right after toggle error message. So we're going to do a layout string, and then we're going to set that to be the layout. And then in our FAQ web part, we're going to set layout. Oops, I'm sorry, there. To the layout here. Save that, save that. And now let's go back and look at our state. So this was under, where were we? Default layout. Click your Webpart. Look at that, our configuration. But let's look at our store. Look at that. Our layout selection in our store set to accordion. Yes. Okay. We're in business. So what I'm basically trying to establish is that we're passing our properties into our global state. And then our global state is going to be the middleware, if you will, like the middleman. And so what we can then do is we can take properties from within our web part, pass it into our global state, and then take it from our global state to the configuration pane, and back and forth. You know, that's going to be like our mediator, what's going to be shifting things in between. Okay. So now, yeah, so now that we have that, let's go and change some things. So now in our topic selector, we can get rid of the topic array here. And let's change it to our web part store. We're going to use set topic ID array. Instead of selected topics array. Yep, select the topic array. We're going to use and then instead of topic, we're going to use number. Updated array is going to be a number array. Updated set. Okay, so set selected topic ID array. And we're going to pass this down here. Because there's no ID, we're actually literally looking at the topic. Yeah, that's correct. And then topic does not have an ID. All right. So now we'll have a problem here because this is expecting a topic. And so toggle selected topic is going to be a problem because now it's taking an ID. So we got to go to our stackable bar. And then we're going to say number here. And then we're going to pass the topic ID. What's the problem over here? What is the issue? Oh, because it's not a topic anymore. Oh my goodness. Yeah, because what the issue is here is that selected topic ID array is now an array of IDs. So if we have the array of IDs, we need to create a hook that returns the topics by ID. So here we go. Let's do that. So let's go to our API, and we're going to create so this is a topic API, and we have all of our topics, create topic, update topic. There should be a get topic by ID. So we have fetch all topics, create a topic, update a topic, delete a topic. So on our get topics, after fetch all, we're going to create a new call. Const. Yep, that's exactly what we need to do. We're going to get our topics by ID. All right. We don't need a get. Yeah. Yeah, so we're gonna do that. But actually, let's do by IDs. And let's make this a number array. And we're gonna call this IDs. And what we're gonna do is we're going to return them using promise all, because we could technically build a filter that returns like equals ID, equal this ID, equal this ID, and chain them. The problem that you have there is that if you do that, I'm not saying that this is going to happen, but it is always best practice to not have to do it that way. Why? Because if you do it that way, that string could get really long. And there is a limit to the length of your REST endpoint URL. So by you doing filter ID equals this, filter ID equals that, and say you have 20 of them, that is going to be a really long string. So you don't want to do that, right? So we want to use promise all to fetch multiple items and their IDs. That's exactly what we want to do. And then we're going to return the results. So what this is saying is we're taking the array of IDs, we're going to iterate through them. We could do the map, but I don't usually, I know that, no, I think we could do it that way. So usually I use a for loop, which is another way of writing it. But now that I think about it, usually when I use a for loop is because I want to actually do the awaiting as I'm iterating through the loop. If I am doing this using a map method, actually it works out better this way. Because if I use the map method, it's basically, think of it as a revolving door. I'm just going iteratively and going through them. So I think in this case, I'm going to agree with what GitHub Copilot put on here, which essentially is just, think of it as a revolving door. It's passing the ID, and then it's getting that item by that ID. And then it just spits out a bunch of promises, 1, 2, 3, 4, however many IDs you have. And then it's going to return the objects of those things. Okay. So trying to think, I'm going to leave that there, but I still think this is going to come in handy. But what I am thinking right now is that we can have the local state reflect temporarily, if you will, what those topics are. Um, because, oh boy, I'm trying to think if let me not overthink it, because a lot of times my brain goes in so many different directions and then I just don't code. So let's I'm gonna ignore the stuff that I'm thinking about, and I'm just gonna continue and see if what I think I'm doing is correct. So let's go into our hooks. So we've updated our API. So now we have to have a hook that gets all of those items. So we have our topic hooks. And so right now we have a use FAQ topic. So what this is returning is an array of topics, um, basically for all of them, because it's using the get all FAQ topics. All right. And actually, now that I think about it, inside of our API, the FAQ topic API, we actually need a URL similar to how we have right here. So we need to have a URL here as well. Export const fetch FAQ topics by IDs URL. And this is going to be a string. And you see how this is not what I want. So that's fine. Items. We just don't want it to be the same. It I guess this is okay. This is fine. So the I guess if you can put it this way, all the URL does is give your hook, your SWR hook, an identifier. And so that way, that identifier, think of it as like a little flag. Your hooks are all in a line and they have like a little flag, like to identify themselves. That's all this is. So there's not too much of a strict thing that I would tell you, like, oh man, you have to make sure that it follows this convention. Um, so so don't worry, it's gonna be okay. We'll probably fix it just because of my OCD, which limited I have. It's not gonna leave me alone about this one, so we'll probably come back and fix this. But this is something that we're gonna have to change to get by ID. Because if we look at SP REST URL get item by ID, let's see what that looks like. Yep, here by title, items. So it looks like items, and then you pass the ID. Yep, items. And then you pass the ID. So we have flash, and then let's just say ID. Yeah, we can just say ID, right? Because ID. Let's do it that way. It's just saying basically that, we get items, but this one's getting them by ID. Let's just, for simplicity's sake, add IDs there. All right, so now we have that. So now let's go back to where we were. Go to the hooks. Let's go to our hooks. And we're going to create a new hook. And the new hook is going to say use FAQ topics by IDs. Yep. And so this is going to be very similar to the use FAQ topic. So we can actually put this to the side here. And let's go to import. SWR, and we're going to import key mutator. And we're obviously going to import use SWR. All right, so we have our use SWR and our key mutator imported. All right. What is wrong here? All right, perfect. Okay, and then we are gonna need the FAQ topic from our app props, and we're also going to need our calls from the API. And so this is going to be returning, this hook going to be returning an array of options, which is going to be our FAQ topic, FAQ topics by IDs, and it's going to be obviously an array of FAQ topic. Sure, let's call it that. That's correct. And we're gonna basically use SWR to return our properties. What am I missing here? Wait, why is it saying that? Is our API wrong? Did I put it in the wrong spot? Oh, I sure did. Man, I was supposed to do FAQ API. Wait, no, I didn't do it wrong. FAQ topic API. Yeah, I didn't do it wrong. Page FAQ topics by ID. And this is returning, oh, this is why. And that's no wonder. All right, so returns results. All right, now everything's updated with the world again. All right, cool. This is what you gotta love about TypeScript. Even though it's a little more typing, it keeps you from having these errors that you would otherwise have. And so our issue here is that we need to have a dependency, which we didn't add a dependency array. Let me see. Yeah, we need to have a dependency, which I'm surprised it didn't give us an error here on our SWR hook. Let's move this stuff. Let's close this. We don't need this anymore. We don't need this anymore. We don't need this anymore. So you have to remember, we want to have this fetch the topics every time our array of IDs changes. So we need to have the ability to have a dependency array here. And so for our dependency array, we need to have the IDs passed to us. So here, is that how I had it on the FAQ topics API? Yes, it was just IDs all lowercase. I like to keep this. And so here, we're gonna have to rewrite use SWR to have a dependency array. Yep, so the dependency array, and then we're gonna have that doesn't, no, that's not right. Um, let's try this again. So we're going to use SWR, and it is going to return, it's going to use IDs. It's going to check if IDs are there. And if it's there, then we're going to pass the URL. So fetch FAQ topics, the URL, and we're going to pass IDs in our dependency array. Otherwise, we're going to pass null. Okay. Now, if we have our URLs, our URL and our IDs, then we're going to use the fetcher, the fetch function with the IDs, and suspense will be set to true, and then revalidate on focus set to false. We don't really need URL here because it's not used anywhere. All right, so now what this is basically saying is IDs, there really shouldn't even have to be a check for IDs. Yeah, because the only reason we would need a check is if the only reason we would need a check is if our IDs was to be set up as undefined. But as you can tell in our function, we don't ever have it set to undefined because it's always going to be an empty array. So let's give this a shot this way. So what this is going to do is it's going to take our ID array and it's going to, why is it saying that IDs is not read? Did I miss something? Is it because I'm not using the checker? It might be that. Yeah, that's what it is. That's what it is. If you don't do this checker, now remember why I did this before this way. If you don't have this checker, it's basically gonna have a TypeScript issue where it thinks like, wait, this IDs is not leveraged because it's encapsulated in this in these parentheses for our for our hook. So now that we have a way of retrieving all the topics by the IDs, let's go back to topic selector and sorry, my dog just ran in here. We are going to use our hook to get that. So where are my IDs? So obviously we have our Webpart store and we have our array of IDs. And so here we're going to use an object, or we're going to retrieve our use what is this, FAQ topics by IDs, and we're going to do the select topics array, and here we're going to use what do we have it set to? FAQ topics, which is going to return an array. And now we can use this. Instead of this, we can just do this. Wait, no. Wait, do we? Wait, I'm confusing myself. No, we do it that way. We do it that way. Stop overthinking it. I have to tell myself this because I always overthink things. So let's go back to our FAQ web part. We click on edit. And now when I select topics, or when I look at my web part, if I select the topic, it's going to put it in selected topics. Good. But let's look at our let's look at our state so we can see. Wait, my dog is chewing on something. Come here, lady. Come here, lady. Sorry. Just ignore it. I'm going to ignore it. All right. So if we go to our topics, give me 1 second. All right. I just had to message my daughter to come get our dog. All right. So if I add a topic, I should see it up here. So let's inspect stuff, shall we? So we go back to our default layout and we look at our store. I believe it was under FAQ Webpart, because remember, we're global, right? Sorry, I was distracted by somebody putting some spam on my chat. If we use I just lost my train of thought. Okay, let's go back. So we are talking about our Webpart store. Our Webpart store is global. So inside our Webpart store, if we look at FAQ Webpart, we should have accordion topics. Here's our bound store. Let's look at our store. So here's our selected topic array. So it just has ID 1 because general is 1. So let's just double check. But I'm pretty sure general was 1. So we show hide our IDs. You can see in general was 1. So we are actually looking good. The only issue that I see is our selected topic array is not populating. What? Why am I FAQ topic IDs? Oh, okay. Because I have a, so if we this is what we're seeing. We're seeing that our ID has it in there, right? And when that changes, it's triggering our hook. And so our hook is going into our web part into our hook is going into our local state, which is global in the Webpart store, has that item in the array. And so what that is doing, that dependency is making it or go into our API and fetch our topics, but our topics are inside of our remote state, because our remote state, if you remember, is coming from our web part from our FAQ topics by ID. Okay, how do I know that? Because if I was to go into our default layout, we have we should have a hook, not in there, but in our stackable bar. No, it would be under topics. So we have our default layout. We have our FAQ items. This is it right here. Yeah, because we called it FAQ items, right? Oh no, we called it FAQ topics by ID. So this is the other hook that we're seeing. Let's go into our, and this is called the React developer tools. So just install this in the web store, in the Chrome web store, and you'll see what I see in the troubleshooting. Okay, this is very, very handy so that you can kind of see as you're making changes on here. All right, so where was I? We were looking at Give me one moment. I'm gonna have to um, work with my dog for a second. Sorry about that. I'm back. All right. So we were talking about the hooks. So we have a FAQ items hook. I want to see if I can see the. There we go. FAQ topics. This is what I was looking for. So the FAQ topics. Here we go. So it's probably not this one. I think it's this one. And usually it's like the third or fourth one. I wish it was better than this when it came to being able to see the data. Here we go. So here's our data. It's a little confusing because we shouldn't be seeing all of these. Are we? Yeah, we're inside of our FAQ topics. That's interesting. We shouldn't be able to see all those in there because it's technically not, right? They're technically not there. So what are we doing? Let's go back to topic selector. So in topic selector, we're saying that we're using this and it's basically changing whenever our selected topic ID array changes. Um, and then we have our FAQ topics by ID. Let's refresh it and see it live how this is happening. So right now, if we go to topics, we shouldn't see anything here, right? So it was under topic selector. Here we go. So our hooks, I believe it's here. It was like down here. I think it was that one. I'm pretty sure it was that one. Yeah, it's the one directly underneath that has this ref. So if I add general, if I go to topic selector, yeah, there we go. I don't know why it was showing more earlier, but it's only showing one, which is what we need, which is great. This is what exactly what we're looking to see. Why? Because what happens is we can cache this, and then when the user decides to leave this component, we can then take the ID and put it into our configuration on the side panel of our web part. But let's do this. Before we go there, let's make sure that users cannot add that same topic back into the selected topics because the selected topic has already been, right, we've already selected it. So let's go ahead and work on that fix, okay? So the topics here, we need to have, we can do this one of two ways. We can basically say to the stackable bar, we can filter out the items that are already inside of our inside of what, like, we can get rid of this. We can go ahead and get rid of the, basically what I'm trying to say is we can make it so instead of just using topics right off the bat, we can have a new array generated whenever somebody adds an item from the existing set of topics. We can actually take the whole array of topics and remove that one topic that has been added. We can do it that way, or we can just say if the topic if, as we're iterating through our topics, if the selected array does not include that ID, go ahead and show it. If it does not, then don't show it. Okay? We don't even have to have an if here. Let's get rid of this if. We can do a ternary. So we can get rid of this if that GitHub Copilot was putting in there for us. And we can just say, don't return anything if. And so we can take the stack item. So what this is saying is the selected topic ID, if it already includes the ID of that topic, if it doesn't include it, if it does not include it, then we're going to go ahead and return that topic inside of our stackable bar. If it does not include it, if it does include it, then we're not going to show it. That's what we're basically doing. So if we go to topic, we add general. Oh no, we had, it was correct. Let's redo this. If we go to topics and we add general, oh, but I really don't, did you see that? Like it flashed, like it closed and it flashed. So once again, I'm gonna add it. I am not a big fan of that at all. And so why that is happening is because our states are shifting, but all topics and selected topics shouldn't flash watch. You see that? It's like the entire component is re-rendering when that is happening. But the good news is that we've already moved it over from our all topics to our selected topics. Yeah, so I think this is a good stopping point because we already have our layout. We actually have to work on that still because obviously default is going to be accordion, but we should be able to have the user select tab layout, and when they select that, it should update that. So under the layout, let's go ahead and fix that before we take out for the night. So in layout, we can use our Webpart store. Equals use Webpart store. And here we're gonna set our layout, because we do have that in there, don't we? Yeah, set layout selection. And we have our layout selection. Yeah, so we have our layout selection and we have our setter. Perfect. And so we're gonna have a call that set, actually, no, we don't have to do that. So our document card, I think that has an on click. I, 'cause, 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 ' And this is probably we're probably gonna have to refactor this because I think that we can make it more dynamic where you can just pass an array of the different layouts that we want. But for the purposes of just, working on it now and not overthinking, like trying to do everything too much at once, um, we'll do it this way. So yeah, our document card, and in our document card, we have an on-click. We're gonna set the layout to on accordion. And then if it's already selected, obviously, then we need to have like an outline on the document card. Yeah, so the document card has document card. So let's go look at the layout module. So we have our document card. Yeah, document card. And we have selected. Yep, perfect. Look at this. It's already thinking for me. So if the layout selection layout selection equals tabbed, I think we're gonna have to use a template literal. Yes, so layout selection is equal to tab, then we're gonna add selected, otherwise it's gonna be document card. No, that's not the way we want to do things. No, that's not the way we want to do things. Let's do a template literal. So that's the little tag at the top. All right, and then we're gonna say style selected, or document card rather. Yep, and then let's close our template literal. And so we have our document card, and so if it is layout, no, yeah, that's exactly what we want. Layout selection is equal to tabbed, then we add style selected, otherwise an empty. Yep, that's perfect. That's what we want. And the same thing for accordion. So the accordion. All right, so let's add a template literal here. Template literal. And basically what we're saying is if it's equal to accordion, then make that selected. And obviously accordion is going to be selected by default, right? Because by default, we have our settings set to that. Now, if I change it to tab layout, when I click on it, you saw that the transition happened, right? But by default, our web part is set up to be accordion, okay? So we're already starting to see some updates here, all right? So by default, again, our web part, whenever it loads, it should by default have an accordion layout. Why? Because if we look at our properties, and again, this is only visible right now because we're in development. Once we go into production, we're not going to be showing the users what you see in that property pane on the right hand side. Okay. The purpose of that, I think give me 1 second. talking to myself on mute here. Sorry about that. Can you? Okay, I've been talking to myself this whole time in mute. Um, because I forgot I was double muted. Let me. Sorry about that. So double muted on there. So what I was basically saying is, whenever we're switching here, you can see that our value inside of our global store is being updated. Ultimately, what I visualize for this web part is that we will have a save configuration button, and that ultimately what that save configuration button will do is it'll take our global state and store it on that configuration pane on the right hand side. Okay, that's ultimately our goal, because we want to have the user go through all these steps in a wizard like format for setting up their web part, and then once they've completed that, they click on save configuration, and that's going to save it on the configuration pane, which by the way I need to change this. I don't know why I kept that, um, because it's not accurate. um, and so if I go to our FAQ web part, the TS, in here I think it's, oh no, it was under our, yep, configuration under our strings. So it's under strings, under the, here we go. Topics. We don't need topics. It's just going to be called configuration. Object for the AQ web part configuration. All right. And obviously this is not going to change because remember we have to build it and all that. Oh, I guess it does change. Never mind. Disregard that. I made a mistake. So it didn't change, but I mean it did change, which is a good thing. But again, this is not going to be visible to the user, just for us for the purposes of development. We're going to keep track of the values, and we're going to update. We're going to update this value here when the user says I've completed the configuration. Okay. Anyway, I think that's going to cover it for tonight. Tomorrow we'll probably continue on working on this bug where you're seeing it just flash. Obviously that's not ideal. We want to be able to have a very smooth transition where the item just, disappears on the bottom. It doesn't flash every single time, because right now what's happening is because the states are changing, it's causing an issue. And I think the biggest one that's causing an issue, it's in our topic selector. It's gonna be our hook that returns our array of objects, this FAQ by IDs. So tomorrow what we're gonna do is we're gonna work on wrapping our components, because what wrapping our components will do is we can actually suspend the component that's changing until the change occurs, and then refresh it and put it on the screen. So essentially what happens is the only thing that you'll see flicker or change is just that piece. So what we would see is this area of selected topics is just gonna have a loading state. So it'll temporarily show a loading state, and then once that loading state is complete, then it'll render that component. Rather than making it all disappear and reappear, that wrapper is going to allow us to basically suspend it, show something like a nice little graphic while it's loading, and then load. It gives obviously we could just say, yeah, this is just configuration, who cares? We have to be better than that. Like, we should care. And we should try to make the user have the best user experience when we're building these things out for them. But anyway, that's going to do it for me tonight. Thank you so much for coding with me, and I'll see you next time. Take care.